join me in welcoming, as I said earlier, the newest police chief in Sonoma County. For those of you who don't know James, he was a member of our club back in the early 2000s, a very valuable member of our club, and his work schedule kind of got in the way of his fun. So he chose to break the connection. For those of you who have met James in a professional situation, or have seen him on his motorcycle as he started the motorcycle program in Sebastopol, you'll know that he is a very compassionate police officer. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome James Connor.
How do you do, Honored Speaker? How do you do? Is there anything that we can do for you? Come on, Joe. Thanks for coming here today, and we're with you all the way. How do you do, Honored Speaker? How do you do?
That's something new.
Should be. Nobody knows to sing on.
Yeah. Does he have a microphone, Bruce?
Yes, he does. I do it. Wow, that's not.
There you go.
All right. Well, so the answer to that, hey, how y'all are. So I actually kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable because, as a lot of you know, I am very, very Cajun. And y'all have been cracking on this morning. I'm not empathetic. I'm a near lifelong resident of Sonoma County, but I was born in Fort Rucker, Alabama, while my dad was stationed there. We settled into Sonoma County because my mom's folks had settled here when my grandfather got out of the service. So when my dad got out of the service, he did not want to go back to Louisiana, where my family is from. So they settled here in Sonoma County as well. But let me start out first with telling you a little bit about me, and maybe that'll help to put a little bit of perspective into how I look at law enforcement and how I look at our relationship with our community here. Last week I turned 52. My beautiful wife Francine and I have been married for 30 years, or as I refer to it, we just celebrated 30 years of her low standards. We have 5 children and 10 grandchildren, plus 1 more on the way. We raised our kids here in Sonoma County, in the Sebastopol area, when my youngest son, after he graduated high school, when he moved out of the house and went out into the world on his own, we sold our farmhouse and downsized right quick before anybody thought they were moving back home. So while we don't live in Sebastopol anymore, we live in Santa Rosa, this is still really our home. Now I told you that that my family is very Cajun, so let me explain a little bit about how I view law enforcement and how I think that California is really sort of the leader in law enforcement and our tactics and our community interactions. And as goes California, there goes the nation. So while in other parts of the nation, things like law enforcement training and community interaction are not what we would like necessarily to see so much. While there are very good and committed people serving in law enforcement across the nation and obviously across the world, we see things in the news that we really are troubled by. And a big part of that, I think, has to do with the state of law enforcement training across the nation. And I tell you that California is really a leader in that. We are, the police business is regulated by a California commission, the Commission on Post, Peace Officer Standards and Training. And through a variety of laws and regulations, this commission sets standards for hiring standards, for training standards, for professional certification standards. And it's not like that everywhere. I tell you that my wife and I, in visiting family back in Louisiana, I went on a ride along with my cousin, and we were sitting in the car on the side of the road, working radar, watching traffic as it's going by, and this truck goes down their main street. street, and it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. The truck goes by at 37 miles an hour, and I'm like, oop, 37. And just then my cousin's got it on the radar, and it's like, all right. Pulls out into the street, turns the lights on, and just as he pulls behind the truck and turns the lights on, that truck took off. And so the lights are on, the siren goes on, he steps on the gas, and we're following. And right through the center of Capitol, Louisiana, in the 25-mile-an-hour zone, it's a 55-mile-an-hour chase. And just as my cousin's car pulls up closer to the truck real quick turns right, followed to the right, and then the truck turns immediately to the left. And it's pretty clear that the truck is trying to ditch the cops. So just as it picks up to about 70, the truck pulls a little to the right of the roadway where they don't have curbs, they've got a ditch. And so the wheels pull into the mud on the ditch, and it pulls it off the side of the road, and it sticks into the ditch, and it's going nowhere. So here in California, we have a procedure that we teach statewide. Everybody is trained the same way for what we call a high-risk stop or a felony stop. In order to safely address whatever is in that car, we have a procedure where 2 patrol cars pull up, and everybody is trained in the exact same tactic all across the state. So whether a pursuit starts in our town or ends in our town, everyone involved in law enforcement knows how to respond. Everybody knows each role that they're supposed to play, no matter what role they happen to have in any incident. But it's not like that in Louisiana. So as that truck stops, my cousin gets out of the car and races up to the car, which is something that we would never do. And he gets up there and he says to the guy, what are you doing? I know you saw the lights and heard the siren. And this old Cajun farm guy, he's crying. It's like, what in the world are you crying about? And the guy said, well, like 2 years ago, my wife ran off with a Louisiana state trooper. And I thought that might be you trying to brought her back. All right, that didn't really happen, but my point is really solid, that there is a difference in training and there is a difference in standards in law enforcement across. So, actually, I just really like that joke. It's not okay, other than to say, so our idea here, kind of regionally, but very specifically at the Sebastopol Police Department, our idea here is how do we serve our community while being a part of our community. And we look at every program and every idea and every enforcement tactic that we do, not just through the lens of enforcing law and keeping order and keeping peace, but how do we make sure that we're serving the community in the way that the community wants and needs to be served. And a big part of that is by recruiting people from this community who understand our community standards and our community culture. The biggest things that we face here are different than the biggest things that are faced problem-wise in law enforcement in larger areas, metropolitan areas, more rural areas, less rural areas. Here. Look, y'all making me nervous.
He's a private citizen, Scott, now.
All right. So, the trends that we see locally, specifically in Sebastopol, you all, this is not going to be a surprise to you, but the number one complaint issue that we have is regarding traffic. Whether it's traffic congestion or whether it's traffic violations, most notably speed, right-of-way violations. Okay, I know I hear this one all the time. Red light running, And I'll tell you that that is the most difficult thing in the world to enforce, because there isn't anywhere where we can sit in a police car and watch for the red light violations without blocking the rest of traffic. And then when I had the motorcycle, I would sit on the sidewalk at the cutout, and then people would yell at me because I was on the sidewalk on the motorcycle. So traffic enforcement, which is a priority for us, unfortunately, has to be an ancillary duty because the police officers are being called to, we call it a call for service. The calls for service that we report or respond to most frequently have to do with drug and alcohol violations, both under the influence, driving under the influence, crime associated with addiction, both to alcohol or to drugs, property crimes that are associated with that. And aside from those aspects, probably the biggest violent crime trend that we have has to do with assaults, domestic violence, interpersonal assault violence, although our experience with things like felony assault, assault with a deadly weapon, while those things occur, they occur less frequently and usually have to do with people from outside of the community bringing their problems inside the community and being here for us to have to deal with. We're fortunate in that our violent crime rates are lower than they are in the rest of the region. They really haven't fluctuated up or down very much. It's really kind of a steady pace, but that's fortunate because we don't really have a whole lot of it. I think that we probably experience on average a homicide maybe once every 8 to 10 years. While we have had I'll say a notable trend of sexual assault and we have had a few reports of rape, but generally, this never sounds right when I say it, but lower level sexual assault crimes, that trend is sort of continuing. But aside from that, I think that the thing that I really would like to get across to you all is that we have a safe community. And while things occur, as they do everywhere, your police department works very hard to make sure that it stays a safe community. And hopefully you see that as you travel in and out of the community. Hopefully you see our police cars out on the road talking to citizens who might need a reminder to change their behavior a little bit. And hopefully when you call us for service, we're serving you in a way that you really want to be served. So if you interact with us and you don't feel like we're serving you in the way that we should be serving the community, please feel free to call me. The number of the department, don't call 911. The number of the department, just the main business line, the 829-4400. If you call and ask to talk to me, the person who answers the phone will put you through. If I'm in the building, you'll talk to me, and if I'm not in the building, you'll be put into my voicemail and I'll return the call as soon as I can. So I think that's really all that I wanted to make sure to share with you this morning. You probably have noticed that I'm nowhere near as polished as our prior chief, Jeff Weaver, is. But that's because he did this for a very, very long time. I tell people, and I make no bones about it, it is really, really easy to take over for somebody who did a really crappy job. I'm not joking. That's a great job to have. It's very difficult to follow somebody who did such a great job for so long and is so beloved by everybody as Jeff was. There is really not a whole lot of success can be happening after that. So my plan is I plan to fail really, really big, really soon, and just drop the bar as low as I can, And then every day when I come in and the joint doesn't fall over, people are like, I guess that was a good day for you. So if I can ever be of any help, please feel free. Give me a call, send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Although, as I said, I am not Jeff, and he would work 90 hours a week and be replying to emails at home from bed at 2 in the morning. I know, because he kept sending them to me. He was very efficient. It's going to take me quite a while to get back up to that speed. So bear with me. If I'm slower in response than you're used to, that's why. So that was really all that I wanted to share with you. I appreciate you having me here. If you have any questions at all, I'm happy to address them the very best I can. Yes, Barney?
Yeah. Several years ago, we had the school resource officers. We used to have school resource officers. And what kind of outreach are you doing in the schools now?
The city council has budgeted for us $10,000 every year for overtime, specifically for the purpose of allowing officers into the school to interact with them. So we have 2 officers that have volunteered to do that as the primary school liaisons, but it's on an overtime basis. And while that sounds like it should be a great idea, you know, if it's overtime, well then just do it when you want to do it. The problem though is that the officers who are participating in that happen to work the graveyard shift. And so in addition to that not being the most conducive to interacting with kids, it also happens that that's the shift where they get a lot of calls for service and police activity that brings them into court during weekdays. And so that also kind of interferes with that. But Officer Andy Bauer and Sergeant Nick Bellevue both interact with the kids, and Andy has tried really hard to be in the schools every Wednesday. And for the most part, he is able to do that. It would be really nice if we were able to get another grant, which is how we funded the School Resource Officer Program previously. It would be very nice if the federal government had the Cops in Schools grant program again, and that we would be successful in getting that. And we monitor all the time to see when they're going to re-release that program. Yeah.
A number of years ago, the department, I remember hearing, was really stressed because of retirements and sick medical leaves and all.
Yeah.
How's your staffing at this point?
Well, we're currently fully staffed in that all of our authorized positions are filled. However, even though the positions are all filled, we have currently we have one officer who is out on an injury, who's supposed to have a foot surgery in January, which will put him out for 6 months beyond that if everything goes well. So we're already operating with one person short, and our scheduling, we try as hard as we can to be as prudent with your money as we can. So we have just enough people that if everyone is there and healthy, we can staff all of our shift positions. But when someone is out, that really does strain us. And so we feel it in the overtime budget. We feel it in the physical stress and fatigue of the officers because of the amount of extra work that they're doing to make up for the vacant position. So we're, you know, I'm not going to complain because we have all of our positions currently filled with great people. But it would certainly be nice if we had the ability. I would like. We previously had a grant, as Bruce was talking about. We started the motorcycle traffic officer program several years ago with a grant, and that was great because it was an additional body that we could put on a motorcycle. And in addition to the regular law enforcement work we were doing, we had someone we could assign specifically to traffic enforcement. How about that? So Is there?
Bob?
All right.
He's back.
Oh, this is better for me. There's a chance I hit somebody with that mic. So it would be nice if we were able, the Department of Justice had grant programs that allowed us to do that. It was really nice to be able to assign someone specifically to traffic enforcement. We experienced reduced collisions, reduced injury collisions, and we noticeably were able to reduce the traffic congestion and in particular the problem with speeding. And unfortunately, while that is a job of all of the police officers, they can only do that when they're not handling other calls for service. And when you consider things like identity theft and cybercrime and fraud and senior fraud and senior abuse, as those things really are increasing, that gives us less time to do those other things that are just as important, like traffic enforcement. Did you saw your hand up?
With new laws regarding cannabis in effect, and with new retail outlets opening, do you see any impact in terms of surveillance or patrol or activities that are going to affect the department and Sebastopol?
Yes. That's a tough question because it's actually several questions at once. I will say that my initial thought, my initial reaction when recreational marijuana legalization occurred, I thought the world was going to end. But I thought the world was going to end when they started kicking prisoners out of prison and pushing them back down to the local jails. So I will reserve judgment until I see some actual data on how it's really affecting us. But my life experience tells me that making cannabis recreationally available is going to cause a lot of unexpected consequences, in particular with our youth who are having easier access to it, and the consequences for them of that.
James,
Yes, Bruce.
a compliment and a question. The compliment is that the department, since the Tubbs fire, has been using Nixle to put forth some of the activity, and I find that very useful. And if anybody is interested, if they sign on to Nixle with texting 888-777, you'll get notification periodically of what's going on, not only at the county level, but at the department level in Sebastopol. And I find that very interesting for those of us who are basically nosy.
So Nixle is a social media platform. I got the speaker there. Nixle is a social media platform that's either email-based or text-based. You just go and sign up for it. You put your phone number, your email in, and you pick out what you want to receive. And every time somebody puts out a Nixle information blast, you'll receive it. So prior to the fire, we had about 1,200 people that were receiving our Nixle alerts. By a week into the fire, we had about 13,000 people who had signed up to receive our Nixle alerts. And that, I was just all kinds of excited about that. Yeah.
My question is somewhat different from that. Does the Sebastopol Police Department and the City of Sebastopol, in fact, but predominantly the Police Department, have any established policy with regard to communication and cooperation with ICE?
With ICE?
ICE.
Well, the city has passed a resolution that refers to our community, our city, as a friendly city. And while it doesn't preclude cooperation with ICE, we've never done it. They haven't asked us, and we haven't volunteered. In my time, so I've been here about 22 years, and in my time here, I recall arresting someone on an ICE warrant one time. And that was about, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. But because we don't house arrestees, prisoners, when we arrest someone, we do have a temporary holding facility. We have a jail here in Us called jail. But all we use it for is the temporary holding of someone while we get them ready to take them over to the pokey. So we don't really have a need to interact with ICE. We fingerprint people if we need to know who they are, if it's a question ID. But other than that, when we arrest someone that needs to be booked into the jail, we take them to the county jail, and they're booked and fingerprinted over there. So our usefulness to ICE is really not working to them, and we've never had a need to interact with them.
If you've got time, could you stick around in case there are any additional questions? We are out of time now.
I'm
We
most
have
there.
one task left for you,
All right.
and that's to support illegal gambling. So we last week, and Darlene disappeared, but she was actually the winner last week. Gus drew the. Oh yeah, it just sits in the cabinet there. So we got a fresh new deck of cards, and we are going to be looking for the ace of spades. And so first we need to have somebody draw, James draw a ticket. And the number is 8141. Last one. Bruce. James.
Rich get richer.
Unfortunately, the big wad went last week, so.
That's all right. That's asset forfeiture, man.
Anyway, you get to draw a.
Well, I'm actually going to put that back in and we'll draw somebody else.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just leave it out there. Go ahead.
Come on, be my other team.
8150.
Oh,
All right.
Rich do get richer.
Mark Olson. Yes, thank you, James. You got a lot to choose from here.
So I'm actually playing with full deck.
For your life. Oh, who's that? Five. Okay.
Uh-oh, what's
Close, real close. But as a consolation prize, you get a wine glass. And last week's consolation prize. No. She insisted. I talked to her this morning. So, joke of the day. Who's got joke of the day? Oh, Judy Rice.
I got a joke.
that was last week.
Rod's got a joke.
Rod's got a joke.
This won't make you laugh, but it might make you smile. You want a tax deduction this year. Forget what the Senate's working on today. Just get out your checkbook and write a check to the Rotary Foundation before December 31st and give it to me.
That's no joke. And my joke of the day, where do spices go when they get sick? To see Dr. Pepper. Joe, bring us home.
Happy trails to you.